southern trees bear a strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees. Pastoral scene of the gallant South, the bulging eyes and the twisted mouth, scent of magnolia, sweet and fresh, then the sudden smell of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the...
So I'm coming back from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and Route 95 was blocked. I had to take a detour, and it led me into a rundown area of Baltimore, Annapolis Avenue and Russell Street. And as you can see, this area is poverty-stricken. It's run down, and there's a lot of areas like this all over the country. The question we need to ask ourselves is why we have monuments to slavery and racism in this country. Now, I just came from Washington, D.C. There's a huge monument of a man by the name of Albert Pike. He was a general in the Confederate Army, and he was a racist and a white supremacist. National monuments all over this country to this man. National Recreation Area near Mena, Arkansas, Albert Pike Elementary School, where children whose ancestors were whipped and beaten, killed, and enslaved by men who professed the ideology of white supremacy, those children have to go to school under this man's name. The citizens of Washington, D.C. have to walk under this statue. It's a huge, imposing statue. And there's no reason for this. And we can get rid of it. I am going to present to you editorials published by Albert Pike. Actually, every single one I'm going to use is available at the Library of Congress website, loc.gov, in their Chronicling America series. I'm just going to show you what this man published in his newspaper under his name as editor-in-chief, as the chief editorialist of the paper. He was a co-owner, and these quotes are disgusting, and they're offensive, and they need to be heard. Because the dialogue on Albert Pike has somehow been twisted. As you will see, his monument says jurist, poet, philanthropist. It doesn't say racist or white supremacist. Now, I have heard one argument I want to address, that we shouldn't get rid of racist monuments like this because it's whitewashing history, but that's a load of garbage. We can get rid of this monument and put something else up in its place. A statue of Martin Luther King or Rosa Lee Parks, someone who deserves a monument. But Albert Pike, he needs to go. Okay, this is a typical page 2 title page, and at the bottom you'll see the principles that govern the appeal. And I'll take you to a close-up of that, and you'll see it says principles governing the conduct of the appeal, a government of white men, for white men, and no political miscegenation. Please keep in mind, while listening to this, that the language is very offensive, and I don't enjoy reading it, but I'm quoting an evil here. Let's pick up February 6th, 1867, in an editorial that mentions the most racist Supreme Court decision in United States history, the Dred Scott case. And the editorial uses the term cousin Germans, which means first cousins, essentially. And I quote, Yet we see Congress about to confer upon cousin Germans of apes in the country the right of suffrage in the conquered provinces and in the states, and no man, not even the president, ever even alludes to the decision of the Supreme Court to the effect that this is a government of white men. Now quoting June 6, 1868, Negro suffrage is the accursed enchantment that, like that of the malignant magician of old, will destroy the souls of men by inspiring them with the groveling instincts of swine. Moving to May 1st, 1867, an editorial entitled "The Two Great Crimes," the first paragraph, I quote, "Every one who has the least knowledge of history knows also that to confer the right of voting on a vast mass of ignorant semi-barbarians whose morals are only instinctive, their reasoning powers small, their faculty of imitation large, their religion a gross and paganish superstition, and their habits of thought servile, is to assassinate liberty and make a despotism inevitable." Quoting March 21st, 1867, "Negro suffrage would be like a putrid poison in all the veins and arteries of the Commonwealth." Now skipping down to the bottom of the paragraph, and I quote, "To educate the Negro adults is of course impossible. To educate the small Africans who are to succeed to political power on attaining to full-grown Negrohood will be but to make them a little more capable for mischief." So Albert Pike's last day as editor-in-chief of the Appeal was August 29th, 1868, and here on September 1st, you can see the new owners announcing that he will issue a letter to the readers on September 2nd. And here's the paper for September 2nd. Now I want to draw your attention to this snippet where we have Pike arguing directly that African Americans should never be allowed to vote. But then he takes it a step further, encouraging the reader to believe generally that the black race is not even fit to be free. From his bully pulpit as the editorial voice of the Memphis Daily Appeal, Albert Pike published a steady polemic of racist hate speech, further oppressing a people bravely clawing themselves from the pit of slavery's hell. All monuments in his name disgrace the triumph of freedom over such tyranny. This statue is maintained by the National Parks Department. Our tax dollars should not be used for the upkeep of racist monuments.